and you should see links below. You should see, well, icons below to the social media site. So let's go. Queen's Gambit. Will it be accepted or declined? That is the question. Okay, it is Queen's Gambit declined, Slav defense with move 3, knight f3, knight f6, very common. And so far we are in the same position as my latest video, the one that I uploaded to my YouTube channel just before I began this live stream, where I was playing white against Patzer with an exciting finish. I'll leave it as that if you're interested in checking it out. Bishop here, now in that game D takes C was played. I played A4 as a response, so I could play my knight to the center, and I think that that's a good idea. This is one thought. Knight e5. If there's another candidate move I'm considering, it's queen to b3, since this is now a weak point after the bishop is developed. What else? I'm not sure what else to do. There's just queen b3, there's knight e5. These are the two that I'm considering. Knight here hits the bishop. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Knight e5. And then, yeah, I think this is working out. This might be a very, very difficult road ahead for black, because I think... Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. I think this is the correct follow-up. I think what in this position? I think that if queen b6 is not the move played, there's some serious problems that are going to... well, black is going to have serious problems. Because queen c7 runs into moves like bishop f4, and also just like the idea of rook c1 and the c file eventually opening up, the queen would be accessible from the c7 square. And now with this move, what's going on? The light squares have been weakened. c6, a6. This bishop, when it played back to h5, and here's an important point. In response to the knight's pressure on the bishop, if it had played to f5, the bishop is still in a spot to maybe come back and defend these light square weaknesses, c6 and a6. But after having played to h5, the bishop is saying, you know what? I'm not gonna be around here to defend any light squares. So I'm trying to somehow make use of this diagonal. My bishop getting here would be great, and I think going here first is the correct step. Doing it at this very moment as well, before black has the option of playing to e6. Excuse me. Playing e6 and then meeting a c takes d with e takes d, and then it's not so... Well, I can't get a piece there so easily, can I? A knight or a bishop or a queen, or make use of this diagonal. So if the knight captures, I could build a center, e4 with tempo, and well, I was seeing like if knight takes e4, knight takes knight, I was thinking queen here is mate, but it's not. The bishop is around to watch over f7. So what does black do? There's only two good recaptures, or two ones to be considering at least. I don't know if they're both good. It's either the knight or the pawn. If the knight takes, then the center has been given up. If the pawn takes, the center hasn't been given up, but I have the b5 square. Again, it's available to me. So that's the little thing that black will be needing to weigh in this position. Do I maintain my center and give the b5 square, or give up my center and recapture with my knight and watch over the b5 square? And apparently the verdict is, you know what? Let's just give that up. Let's maintain the center and then deal with whatever happens with piece coming to this square. Maybe I could give a check right away. I think playing here is good, and then following up with my bishop move. I want to have my bishop contributing in some way. And with this move, I'm threatening to take and then maybe take here. Although there are some issues. As soon as I do take here, the pawn recaptures and is hitting my knight. Even if, here's another thing that you can be falling back on in your own games. Of course, in your own games. I don't know why I have to keep saying that. I guess just for a little bit of emphasis when you're on your own and having to think through things. Worst case scenario now for white is, well, even if I can't make use of this diagonal really soon, I'm still in a good spot because I'll have a nice structure. I have my dark square bishop ideally placed, and by ideal I mean outside of my eventual structure. Pawn on e6, dark square bishop at least seeing the black side of the board, and the pieces are in good spots. So what about this? I could take the knight. If the queen recaptures, then there's very annoying checks that would occur. So I'm assuming after I take here, pawn captures is best. I think that's just unnecessary. I think I just play e6. And now this is a very difficult move to me. I think a6 might be needed now. Just from a simple move. Just by having, I think the start of the trouble was maybe the bishop playing out to g4. If it does happen to be a line, I think black is really needing to know exactly what to be doing as those next few follow-up moves. A6 is played. Okay, I could give a check here with my queen. What has been weakened as a result of that move? What is it doing? What is it not doing? It's watching over b5. What is it not doing? It's not watching over b6, and it's currently hit once, defended once. I think hitting it again is a good idea. So that's what I'm going to do. I do want to be a bit cautious about this bishop coming out to give check, because this bishop is controlling these two. If a bishop lands here, it could turn out to be mate in some crazy position, but I think it's quite all right here. This knight is in a pin. Like, if you could imagine this knight not even on the board, and this queen not even on the board. This bishop coming out here to this square is mate. To be a little bit cautious of this diagonal, but I think it's all working out there. What else? Well, I don't know what to suggest for black because I think there's trouble in all variations. Okay, well, maybe that is best. Interesting, b5. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes with check. I think this is working out. I'm going to do it. Tactics. I'm in a spot to eventually land a fork on b6 after a bunch of smoke clears. With check, the knight can't block. It has to be the other knight. And after the knight plays here, I chop here on this square. I'm no longer also having to worry about a bishop playing here. I have the f1 square available now that my bishop has moved. So I think the right idea here is to first take this knight, take here a couple times, and then end with a fork. Although my knight might end up getting trapped. Actually, it is going to get captured back, and my opponent will have the bishop pair. So this is interesting. Bishop check. Oh, the king went there. The king should have gone somewhere else, I think. Let's just go somewhere else. And let's just lock it up. King is going to be good here, and my rook's just let's just keep pushing this pawn. Let's play it super safe here. Super safe. Where has the time gone? Where has that time gone? Time burners? Forks everywhere. Push these pawns. Push them. Keep pushing. Give checks. Pre-moves. They're down on time. Okay. Got crazy. A flurry of moves right at the end there. Good game. Let's hit that rewind button and take maybe one or two things away from this. Hopefully. Let's see. From your perspective, you're playing the black side. A different move to consider. I've seen bishop f5. I think it comes with the loss of a pawn or a compromised queenside structure. You really, really, really need to be cautious of white reacting with a queen to b3 move. After you move your bishop, be cautious of the white queen reacting with queen to b3, pinpointing the one weak square. Beware of b7 as soon as your bishop moves, and this turned out to be a problem. I didn't play there right away. I centralized my knight with tempo, and this becomes very difficult. I don't know. I think maybe queen b6 is the best way to put up resistance, but you're going to end up with doubled b pawns, and I don't know if it's enough to just have play on the a file with having doubled b pawns. I know it is much different, however, if you have doubled b pawns, but they're still as a group, or in other words, not isolated. What could happen if queen b6 is played is that I could take, you could recapture, and then after we take a couple times on this square, this c pawn becomes a d pawn, and the b pawns become double isolated, which is usually very bad. And I think there's a way to exploit this, and I don't know, you could really be making great use of this half-opened a file. So I'm really questioning. In other words, I'm really drawn back to what? I'm drawn to this move right here, the decision to deploy the light square bishop. You could consider this instead if you're looking for I think it would be worth it's about a 15-minute video. If you went to youtube.com/ChessNetwork, you're going to see that is the one currently being played right here. Out of this opening, I had the white side. My opponent, a strong player, played d takes c, which is a line. It's considered the Queen's Gambit declined Slav Dutch, and that was actually news to me. That's actually what the ECO is saying of the particular line that ended up being played. I think there's more moves to go before you could actually call it that. But anyhow, d takes c, and then only later bishop f5 was played. D takes c. Sometimes you'll be seeing a4. That's a pretty common move. Also, I think knight e5, but a4 is a move that's pretty common. So look into this maybe. Take on this square and then think about bishop here. You'll notice the difference. If you capture on this square and I play a4, after you bring your bishop out, I don't have this queen b3 stuff anymore. You have a pawn currently on c4. It's not available. So anyhow, that's a couple quick points. I think you're really on your heels from this point on. So I think things are coming back to the light square bishop's decisions. Anyhow, just some quick things to chew on there, and hopefully you're benefiting from those words that I'm sharing on that. Okay, you are saying thanks again, and you are welcome. Okay, let's get another game in here. Why not? Another one coming up, coming up, coming up. I want to point out one other thing. I want to point out one other thing from that game that was just played. Let me bring it back up. In this final, not the final position, but right here, you could end up with the 2 bishops versus my rook. I was focusing on the opening because that's where I obtained a, I believe, a clear advantage. But right here, after this move, play your king to right here. King to c6. What did you do? You played your king up. Play your king to c6 so you have this bishop check available. King c6, knight takes rook. Bishop check, king here is forced. Rook takes knight, and at least you have the bishop pair versus my rook and pawn. Actually, or rook and 2 pawns, excuse me. It would be rook and 2 pawns versus your bishop pair. So that's going to be best right there. But we were in a time scramble right there, weren't we? Anyhow, that was one last point. Okay.